themselves the Guardians of the Galaxy.
The hell's wrong with you people?
It is Thursday night of March the 21st, and this is the Utterly Nonsense Podcast, a weekly show where we explore the latest topics in entertainment, but mostly, of course, the stuff that matters to us. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, well, you know where you can find us. I've said this too many times already.
Yeah, of course you guys are already all subscribed, so you heard that all already, yeah.
Yeah. And it'll be free all the time. So, we got a few things this week. The first thing, the biggest thing, actually came Friday of last week. Obviously, we couldn't talk about it because we release on Fridays. That's just the nature of our schedule. So, James Gunn has been, quote-unquote, rehired to direct Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Disney reneged on their ousting of him. They're bringing him back like everybody was hoping. The whole petition, they can stop writing their signatures now. It's all done and set. He's coming back, and he's still doing Suicide Squad 2, so this is interesting. We have somebody directing a DC and a Marvel movie within a close time frame.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what the new release date's going to be on Guardians 3. So first of all, I do want to say I'm thrilled by the actual news. I think James Gunn is really the only guy who could do Guardians of the Galaxy, right?
Yeah.
So, apparently this was a decision that Disney made months ago, but just the public has been completely in the dark about it for some reason. I don't know why they chose to finally announce it now, but, better late than never, I guess. So yeah, people are saying this is a good way to bridge the divide between the two companies. I honestly, I feel like while people do have their preference, DC fans will still see Marvel movies, Marvel fans will still see DC movies. So it's not like you're completely like reuniting the fan base. I don't think we were that divided to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, when was the last intercompany crossover? It was 2003. They had Avengers versus JLA in the comics, written by, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was Grant Morrison who was a writer on it, and then you had George Perez as a writer. It might have been a different writer, but yeah, anyway, so the last crossover was 16 years ago. There's been nothing since. No one-offs, no comics, no games, no animated things, not even in the Lego games, all of those different Lego games. They had Lego Dimensions, which was like a big crossover with all these different things. And I think it was only DC characters, not Marvel, which is strange. So they have some kind of thing going on where they're trying to keep distant. I guess because of the whole movie TV competition. But yeah, like you said, hopefully this can start something where we could see a few crossovers again. Hopefully, Marvel versus DC fighting game. Come on, guys.
Yeah, I mean,
I saw Ed Boon. He put up on Twitter a poll on what kind of crossover fighting game would you want to see next, like horror, Mortal Kombat versus Street Fighter, or Marvel versus DC, and that one got the highest amount of votes.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't shock me. So I will say, I don't think this is going to lead to any sort of formal crossover. It'd be fun to see if it did, but I doubt it. If anything, I feel like James Gunn's the kind of guy who would probably throw in some sort of Easter egg for the fans in both movies just to sort of, like, subtly connect them.
Yeah.
But I really don't think there's anything that's going to be too substantial in either movie beyond Link to the Audience.
Yeah, so of course, I think one thing that most likely influenced this was the actor's attitude towards his firing in the first place. They came to his support initially, and the guy that plays Drax, Dave Bautista, he outright said, if you don't use James Gunn's script for the movie, I'm just not going to star in it. I'm going to ask, my lawyers to tell Disney to get me out of the contract. And who knows what that might have meant for the other actors.
Yeah.
And how much time they have left before, they won't even have their schedules lining up. Because that's a major problem that happens sometimes, is they get actors and then movies are delayed and then they can't do it anymore.
Well, that's what happened, and this is still on topic, so it's not like I'm formally segueing. That's what happened with Will Smith for the Suicide Squad sequel. Well, technically it's they're considering it a soft reboot, not a full sequel, but
right.
yeah, but
total reboot. exact quote.
So for anyone who's not aware, because I feel like this news was sort of brushed over, Will Smith is not going to be coming back as Deadshot in the next Suicide Squad. He's actually being replaced by Idris Elba, who, he's famously portrayed a Heimdall in the Thor movies and briefly in Infinity War for the past however long it's been since the first Thor came out. What was that, like 2009? So Marvel fans are probably pretty used to Idris's performances, pretty used to his presence. So it's going to be interesting to see him as Deadshot. I'm sure he could pull that off. But
Thor was 2011.
Really? It was that late?
Uh-huh. Yeah, it was the same.
It was like right after Iron Man.
No, it was the same year as Captain America. I think Captain America was in the summer, like June, and then Thor was November.
Whatever reason, I thought Thor was earlier.
Yeah, and Idris Elba was that one guy who died at the end of the first Pacific Rim.
Yeah. Or what else was he? He was the one boss on The Office, like the one kind of super attractive douchebag.
Yeah, and he was that one guy everyone kept saying was going to be a new James Bond, but never happened.
Yeah, which I could still see that. I mean, obviously we've got one more coming out with Daniel Craig, but I could see the mantle being passed on to someone like Idris Elba.
Yeah, although I think he said once he was interviewed about it, and he said for sure, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it was a thing like he knew specifically, but I guess, nobody ever approached him for it. And isn't he kind of a little oldish to be a James Bond?
I mean, he's getting up there, but I think he's around the same age that Daniel Craig was when he started.
Yeah, but Daniel Craig has been doing it since 2004? I don't know when Casino Royale came out.
Well, Quantum of Solace was first. I believe that was 2000.
No, that was the second one. That was 2008.
Are you sure about that?
Yes, it was Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace, Skyfall, and then what was the last one?
Spectre, yeah.
Yeah. And now we got
I've already forgotten the title of this thing. Shatterhand.
Yeah. We'll probably have Blofeld again.
Yeah.
This is off topic. Anyway, James Gunn. So now here's one thing we talked about a while ago that was it Mark Hamill said he wanted to be in Guardians 3?
Yeah.
So maybe that can happen? I mean, it's all Disney.
Yeah, I wouldn't be all too shocked by it. So
I
mean,
hope so.
I like look.
Come back as cock knocker.
So I mean, the thing is, James Gunn wrote the script for Guardians 3 a while back, well before he was actually fired from the project initially. They were most likely going to use his script for it, even if he didn't come back to direct. And again, that's part of the reason why I think they were so eager to hire him back. Just the fact that they knew they'd have to credit him no matter what. So, there was really no reason for them to fire him initially. So the fact that they put on this charade for as long as they did was just ridiculous. So that being said, he was in talks with Mark Hamill. This was over a year ago, wasn't it? That he had mentioned on Twitter that Mark Hamill was like his next door neighbor, and they were talking about the whole thing. It wouldn't shock me if Mark Hamill appeared in Guardians 3. And I
who
think
he should be?
Fans. Who?
Oh no, never mind. That's a DC character. I was gonna say he should appear as the Spectre because he did the voice of him briefly in Batman: The Brave and the Bold.
Right.
But that's DC. Never mind.
Yeah, I mean, I could see him being in some sort of supernatural, ethereal role. That being said, I don't think Marvel's going to go anything too supernatural, beyond I feel like Doctor Strange is the one exception to that, but
even that they just explain as a dimensional thingy.
It's basically him just channeling energy from other dimensions. It's not it seems like it follows by its own rules, so it's not like magic in the traditional sense.
You call it science, your ancestors called it magic. I come from a place where they are one and the same.
Which, I know people think that's a cop-out, but I actually really kind of like that explanation. Yeah, so moving on.
Kind of going into the Suicide Squad thing. So we have what has been described as a total reboot of Suicide Squad called The. They just put the word The in front of it. And as we know, it's not going to be Will Smith. It's going to be Idris Elba as Deadshot. I don't even know if Harley Quinn's going to be in it. I read something that's kind of iffy.
Well,
because she's going to be in Birds of Prey, right?
Right. So, I mean, that makes me think that she's going to be in... I don't know. I feel like they wouldn't ditch the character just because of how overwhelmingly popular Margot Robbie's portrayal is of her.
I still don't know why it's popular. I don't know.
She wasn't even that good. Every little girl wants to dress up as Harley Quinn, my sister included.
Why? Because she has a lazy costume? Let me just dye my hair a little bit and put on the little booty shorts and a jacket. That ain't even the costume.
I don't fully get it. But no, it was a huge fad, though. You have to acknowledge that they had this huge marketing campaign based around Harley Quinn, and it clearly worked. The movie was highly profitable. But so I mean, whether or not she appears in the Suicide Squad, I wouldn't be shocked if she did. I don't think they're going to recast her, obviously. But it'd be interesting to see what direction they go with that, because we really don't know too much about what they're doing beyond the fact that Will Smith was recast. It's supposed to be a soft reboot that has little to do with the original.
Hopefully they have a villain or a conflict that's better than some witch thing which you could have seen coming from a mile away.
Yeah.
Which I think she blew up anyway. Man, no. If somebody comes back, I want it to be El Diablo. The only good character.
Yeah, he'd be a fun one.
Yeah. So we have the Suicide Squad. We have, what would I say? Black Canaries? No.
Birds of Prey.
Birds of Prey. Shazam, Wonder Woman 84. And a few other things, and this is all coming out of a place which isn't really a secret at this point, that DC's shifted its focus towards more standalone films. They're not staking as much on the whole shared universe thing, because obviously Justice League was a disappointment, and Batfleck is out, seemingly. Henry Cavill hasn't re-signed as Superman, so who even knows if he'll ever come back. I hope he does, man. But yeah. And then like we said last week about that other article that said that they might be looking to do a Dr. Fate film, which could lead into a Justice Society and taking place in the past.
Well, that'd be an interesting way to reapproach the whole shared universe. Focus on the Golden Age heroes, Yeah,
well, here's the thing. I don't really want to see a whole built-up shared universe like Marvel did from DC, because you know how much time that will take, where we'll have to go through the whole process again? Oh, we gotta put in little hints over here and over there in each movie, and you gotta stay in the after-credits scene, and you gotta... Nah, just give me some good solo movies, and maybe one that leads into a team-up, and then just have the film be about the team itself. Like Suicide Squad. We didn't get individual movies for those. It's just team movie. Here we go. I mean, they did that with the introduction to the Justice League cartoon, although you had the Superman and Batman animated series, but other than that, everyone just kind of shows up. Here's Flash, here's Green Lantern, here's Hawkgirl, Wonder Woman, let's go. Bang, bang, bang. I think they could do that. They did it on television in a children's cartoon. I think multiple multi-millionaire Hollywood producers can do it in a major hundreds of $1 million budget film.
Yeah, so I mean...
Am I wrong here?
So, I mean, it's not on our scheduled list of topics, but I think it's worth mentioning that one of the higher-ups at Warner Brothers, and again, I just skimmed over this. I don't know exactly who the guy is, but apparently he had some major reason. He was one of the higher-ups who basically caused a bunch of the DC films to be cut down. So he apparently stepped down, which is...
His name is Kevin Sujihara?
That sounds right.
I think that's how you pronounce it.
So, that's good news for the future of this franchise. It sounds like he was really one of the creative directors who really just shot down a lot of the more seemingly outlandish ideas that Snyder had, some more, fan servicey ideas that probably would have appealed to the fan base.
And Snyder's vision, I don't think he has totally bad ideas. It's just that...
They were poorly carried out. I mean...
Yeah, you don't have to go dark for every movie. Going dark is good if it fits the character. Because obviously, he did Watchmen, which was great. And he did 300, which is also, kind of a dark atmosphere. And those work. His style works for things like that. And I think that's where DC screwed up. They put him in charge of things that are typically brighter, like Superman and Justice League, and they said, okay, Dark Knight succeeded, so let's do the same thing again.
Yeah, just bring on another dark director. That clearly sells movies.
Yeah, it's like failing to realize what makes the characters good. It's just looking at, this thing succeeded, therefore copy it. It's like what they did in the early 2000s or mid-2000s with Call of Duty. Call of Duty took off, and so then every game company said, oh yeah, we gotta recreate the success of Modern Warfare, put more guns and gray backgrounds and stuff like that. And then your games sell like crap. And then your movies sell like crap.
Yeah, I mean, that was really my biggest problem with Man of Steel, Well, one of my biggest problems was they really didn't do anything to sort of make a Superman movie. It was basically Batman if you were Superman, That's one way of looking at it, which just didn't work for me. As far as I'm concerned, that sort of betrayed the character a little bit. It's I just found it boring because of that reason,
Yeah, I guess I kind of get what you mean. You want to see the happier world it's more accustomed to. And I knew what they were going for. Actually, the first time I saw it, I have to admit, the first time I saw it, I did not like it that much because mainly the reason other people did. It was really, dull. But I saw it again, and, coming into it with a fresh expectation, or maybe a lowering of expectations, I was like, okay, I see exactly what they're trying to communicate here. It's a dark world, and how does a character who wants to be optimistic fit into it?
Yeah.
Which, at the time, kind of made sense, I guess.
Okay, so, just to break away from this a little bit, I guess there's no real seamless segue for this. So there were a bunch of trailers this past week. Toy Story 4, Stranger Things Season 3, and most notably, which honestly it's not getting nearly as much attention as it should be getting, Quentin Tarantino's ninth full release, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, just got its first official trailer and poster, which I'm incredibly thrilled for. What
exactly is the story of this? Because I watched the trailer, and there doesn't seem to be a strict narrative approach to it. It's just kind of, snapshots of Hollywood. Here's stuntmen, here's, loony people, here's how the streets look like in LA and stuff. So what's going on?
Well, the main focus is, and they only show the one character for about, half a frame. They cut off of him really quickly, but... So Sharon Tate, who is Margot Robbie's character in the film, was famously one of the first major victims, one of the first high-profile victims of the Manson family. And we see Charles Manson briefly in this trailer, very briefly, it's a blink and you'll miss it type of thing. So the movie is in large part going to focus on the rise of the Manson family and just how it affected, that culture, this whole changing culture of 60s Hollywood.
Is this the first time he's done something that's actually based on real events?
Well, I mean, you could argue that Inglourious Basterds was, to some extent, since it was a World War II movie.
Ish.
Obviously he took some liberties with that.
Some liberties.
Yeah, same deal with Django. I mean, obviously that was based on, actual Western film. Django, the name Django was, just a commonly used name in Western culture, so...
yeah.
He pulled from that. He pulled from the whole slave, dynamic, that whole era of history. So he's done historical cinema before, but for him to do this close of an actual biopic, and I don't think it's that close of an actual biopic, just because Leo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt, their characters are completely fictional, as far as I can tell. So he's doing the same sort of thing where he's taking some liberties with the whole thing, but as far as I can tell, he's staying true to some of the elements. But I don't think anyone watches a Quentin Tarantino film for its accuracy,
Yeah, they probably watch it for the memorable dialogue.
That's what it comes down to, yeah. Plus, it just looks so goddamn cool and so goddamn fun.
I've only seen 2 of his films.
Okay, we'll watch the rest
probably
of them.
The best. I've seen Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs. The gangsta movies.
Okay, you gotta watch more of his movies. The guy is the best director working today, hands down,
Yeah, he's done a lot of good stuff. So speaking of good stuff being done, the Fox deal with Disney is a done deal, apparently now.
Yeah.
It's finished, it's gone through, so we don't have to, speculate about how long it'll take them to make negotiations. Other than, apparently, producer negotiations, sometimes producers have specific rights to certain films that they will film franchises that they will work on. So who knows with that? But in terms of all the politics, company, business stuff, that's all done. So now the question remains: how are they going to introduce X-Men into the MCU?
That's the interesting thing. So first of all, what you were saying about producers a second ago, Simon Kinberg is still technically, he has some contractual obligation that even if he's not actively working on any of the X-Men films, he's still automatically credited as a producer.
Right.
Which, so that's going to be another just hurdle for Disney if they really want to completely make their own franchise. They're going to have to completely sever ties with him, because he's going to be profiting off of these things until that happens, Mm-hmm. But just to actually integrate them into the MCU, I don't know if there's a seamless way to do that. I know with Scarlet Witch, who's the one X-Men character who's currently in the MCU, who they had the rights to for much longer. Her and Quicksilver, since they were both X-Men and Avengers characters, both studios had the rights to use them. So the Scarlet Witch, they sort of retconned her a little bit. I forget if it was on like Marvel's official website or there was some official MCU timeline fact checkers somewhere online.
Some visual reference thing.
Yeah. So apparently they sort of retconned her to say, oh, hey, maybe the Mind Stone didn't actually give her the powers. Maybe it just awakened something latent in her, like a X gene. So that might be one thing they could do. Like, they could sort of, make the claim that, normal people have the X gene in them and it's just developing now for some reason. Maybe it's a, feedback loop from, them reversing the snap. Who knows? I feel like that's one way of doing it.
Yeah, that was going to be my own personal theory. I haven't read anything. I just came up with something in 5 minutes. Was that, so apparently in the newest Avengers, they're going to go back in time, right? And they're going to try to regather the Infinity Stones and reverse things.
Yeah, that's basically what we can tell from like the initial promotional materials. That's probably what's going to happen, but who the hell knows? So, Marvel might be completely throwing us off the trail for some reason.
So my theory is, if they do that, when they do that, something will be put back, or maybe some things will be put back not exactly the same as before. Because as we know,
it's the whole Flashpoint thing all over again, isn't it?
To fix the timeline, you'll never be able to put it back quite the same. There'll be fine little fractures in it that you just can't account for.
It's like a broken coffee cup, Barry. You can put all the pieces back together, but they'll never fit quite right.
Exactly. And one of those, due to the power of the Infinity Gems, will be the awakening of the X gene in humanity, and out come the mutants. They are the X-Men.
I will say, the problem is if they go that route, they're not going to be able to really integrate some of the older, like, more traditional characters. Like, they're not going to be able to get Professor X in if they do that. They're not going to be able to get Magneto in if they do that.
Well, maybe they could, because if they're going back in time, maybe they're going far back in time, or maybe it'll be that one theory where if you go and change time at any point, it doesn't just change the future after that point, it also retroactively changes the past as well. So maybe it'll be a thing where, like, when they get back, things will be like way different than they remember, but everyone will be alive again.
Yeah,
maybe it'll just be, oh look, there's this place called School of Mutants. What is that? That wasn't there before.
Yeah, I mean, that seems a little outlandish to me. I feel like that'd be just way too much to go off of for the whole franchise. And that would really just, like, destroy years of world building, if they basically just erased, like, if they said the previous 10 years of the MCU just didn't matter moving forward.
Well, it could be like, almost like the New 52, where they didn't erase all the history of the DC universe. It's like most of it's intact, but a few things are pretty different.
Right. Okay, well, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. The other major theory I was sort of hearing, and this was like pushed back when they first announced the merger, is that Professor X has like long existed in the universe, and he just sent out some massive mind eraser or something just to keep the mutant population hidden or keep them safe or something. Which, I don't know, that seems like another sort of idea that it's just ridiculous,
Yeah, I don't really like that one.
How would they explain why he would go out of hiding at that point?
That's not high concept enough for my taste. I need it to be more scientifically implausible.
Yeah, I feel like a feedback loop would probably be the best explanation. Off the top of my head, that's, like, I think the best thing.
Yeah.
So I feel like the Fantastic Four will be an easier element to integrate just because Marvel now has the rights to those characters as a result of the merger. And
yes, finally, the Surfer is on his way. Galactus is coming. But, I mean, is anyone going to even stick around? Like, who's even to say if there'll be more Avengers, more team-ups, or who knows? But
yeah. Well, again, as we've covered like numerous times on the show before, we know that the next phase of the MCU is going cosmic, starting off like with Guardians 3 and similar films. So we know they're trying to build into those elements. That could be a like good jumping off point for the Fantastic Four, since they're one of this more cosmic groups in the in the Marvel universe. So it'd be nice to see that. I know we're gonna see Adam Warlock in Guardians 3, so there's that.
You know what? Maybe it'll just be that they introduce X-Men in the Fantastic Four, where it's like somebody opens up a dimensional rift, and it's like, oh, hi, I'm Reed Richards. I was experimenting with my latest device, my Dimension Hopper, and oh, look at that. I created an irrevocably opened up fracture in all the dimensions. So now everything's spilling together and worlds are colliding. And now you know what? Forget that. That's not even high concept. That's just trash.
No, I know. And I feel like that's the problem with like the whole multidimensional thing. Like, if you have the ability to do that, what's stopping you from doing that a lot more often?
Hey, maybe they'll open up a portal to DC.
Yeah, seriously.
Finally get that Avengers JLA movie coming to you in 3D and IMAX in 2055.
Yeah. Could happen. Eventually, Disney will take over every media corporation in the world.
Listen, we will...
Mark my words.
Have the franchise wars and all the restaurants will be Taco Bell or Pizza Hut if you're in Europe.
Yeah. We'll all be serving the House of Mouse one day.
Most likely.
It's just an inevitability.
So speaking of hackneyed universe rewrites, let's talk a little bit about The Flash.
Okay.
Because there was this thing on CBR, just preface it by saying, this is rumor status at the moment. So it said somebody with a blog was visiting the set of The Flash, and they happened to come across a script in which the title of the episode was Godspeed.
Okay.
And that this was further corroborated by, I don't know, other leaks or something from set photos. But after recording this episode, I just realized that it's literally just the name of the next episode of The Flash. But bear with me as I give my theory on how it could be the plot of the next season, Season 6. So, what is Godspeed? So, this was after Rebirth happened. Something happened in The Flash where there was a Speed Force storm, kind of like at the end of Season 3 of The Flash that happened before he closed it up, where a whole bunch of people were getting struck by lightning, and so a whole bunch of people were getting Speed Force powers. And one of them that happens to get struck is Barry's detective partner or something like that, some guy he knew well on the police force. And so, since there's all these people that are running around and all over the place, what the Flash does is he opens up a school to teach people how to use their newfound speed powers. And so all of these people are all, basically becoming new Flashes and stuff. But of course, one emerges with not so good intentions. Turns out there's this new guy running around who calls himself Godspeed. And basically he's just like another reverse Flash, but he isn't using a negative speed force. So as it turns out, the identity of this Godspeed was, in fact, Barry's friend at the police force. And what he was doing was going around and essentially killing every single person who had the speed force and siphoning their speed so that he could get faster and faster. So anyway, what eventually ends up happening is Barry has to team up with Wally, and together they reabsorb the speed from the remaining people who are left alive at his speed school. And then they take on Godspeed at the same time, and I think they either strip Godspeed of his speed, or he explodes in a bunch of lightning or something like that. So that could potentially be the plot of a Season 6 of The Flash, which, going forward, again, another speedster. Yeah, but how interesting has Thinker, or what the hell is his name been?
Cicada.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I think that would be a mildly interesting plot if it was somebody that Barry knew and not just some kind of secret sworn enemy who's, I just want more speed, or I want to watch you suffer, Flash. This is more just a guy who's out for his own personal gain and friends with the Flash secretly. But you know what? After playing this back to myself while editing it, I realized just how stupid I sound, because that's exactly the same plot as Seasons 1 and 2 and almost 3. But moving on.
Yeah, I will say, I actually did really like the Thinker for most of that season, most of Season 4. It was really just up until like his final few appearances when they revealed what his actual master plan was. That was just absurd. That is what turned me off the character. And Cicada, he's just cartoonishly evil, I feel like that's just intentional,
I'm gonna kill you all now, and you're all going to die. Right here. Oh, I lost. I'm flying away.
Yeah. So what bugs me about Cicada, actually, is that...
Bugs you about Cicada?
Yeah, that was unintentional, but yeah. What really bothers me about Cicada is, first of all, his power set is completely undefined. We have no idea what he's actually got going on, besides the fact that he shuts down powers, but he also seems to be, super strong and somehow able to, keep up. He's somehow able to take down this entire team, even though Caitlin Snow, Killer Frost, is completely immune to this whole, the fact that she's able to stand up to him and is unaffected by his whole thing is, like they should have won by now. Like they should have been able to stop him a while back.
I mean, she literally has multiple times frozen him to a wall. It's like, hello, get him, stick him in the whatchamacallit, the meta
Power
prison.
dampener.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, and now they brought on the second cicada. I don't know if you've been keeping up with it.
It's his daughter.
Yeah, well, niece, but yeah. Yeah, no, it was so freaking obvious that it was going to be her.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what really bugged me. And yeah, I mean, the whole speedster thing is a little played out. Based on what I initially read about Godspeed, it sounded a lot like Savitar to me. Just, in terms of, we wouldn't know exactly who it is, but we knew it would probably be someone that Barry knew. And that, it's just the whole speedster thing is, I think, really played out. I feel like they need to move on.
Well, it wouldn't be as poor of an explanation as Savitar, though.
Yeah.
And in this case, it wouldn't be just two people who have speed. It would be like everyone in the city.
Yeah. Well, I guess. I mean, I don't know. It's just a weird plotline. But that's the other thing that just sort of bugs me. Like, I feel like if they do go the Godspeed route, they're going to have him try to take Barry's powers or, something like that.
Oh, yeah, of course. That's
just
standard.
Try to depower him for a few episodes just to see what that whole dynamic is. But I don't know. I'm just sick of the whole speedster thing. Like, they got to make Barry the only one.
Yeah. How much more could they possibly do with the Flash? And how much more could we possibly talk about on this episode? So I'm going to cut it off right here. As you know, this has been Utterly Nonsense. You can listen to full episodes of the podcast on any platform where you can find us and watch clip segments during the week on YouTube, and also check us out on social media, all the links of which will be in the description. I screwed it up. My tongue is twisted.
Okay. Epic music, play us out.
Give me your speed.